Step out of the vehicle. Now, officer, can you tell me why you pulled me over? I said step out. Don't make me ask again. I'm complying, but I have a right to know. You have the right to do what I tell you. Hands where I can see them. My hands are on the steering wheel.
A car like this, in this neighborhood at this hour? Yeah, I know exactly what you're doing out here.
I live 4 blocks from here.
Sure you do. And I'm supposed to believe that dashboard cam footage is just for fun?
It's department-issued equipment.
Right. Because drug dealers love keeping records.
It was about 10:45 p.m. when Jordan Hayes left the community center after a town hall on police reform. His daughter's voice was still in his head from their phone call 20 minutes earlier. "Drive safe, Dad. I love you." The streets were quiet. His Tesla hummed softly beneath him. He'd made this drive home 1,000 times. The coffee in his cup holder was still warm, steam rising in lazy spirals against the dashboard lights. He was 3 minutes from his driveway. 3 minutes from walking through his front door, kissing his wife, and collapsing into bed after another exhausting day of trying to fix a broken system. And then the headlights appeared behind him. Red and blue cut through the darkness like knives. The familiar sick feeling twisted in his stomach. His heart sank in a way that 28 years in law enforcement couldn't erase. Because in this moment he wasn't Police Commissioner Jordan Hayes. He wasn't the man in charge of 12,000 officers. He wasn't the one who reviewed use of force reports and signed termination papers. He was just another black man being pulled over at night. And he knew exactly how dangerous that could be. If you're already feeling that tension, hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the like button and turn on notifications because you don't want to miss what happens next. Jordan Hayes was 52 years old. Police Commissioner of Chicago. A title that meant everything and nothing depending on who was looking at him. He grew up on the South Side in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment that always smelled like his mother's cooking and the antiseptic she brought home from her hospital shifts. His mother raised 3 kids alone. Jordan was the oldest. He watched her work double shifts, 16-hour days, coming home so exhausted she'd sometimes fall asleep in her scrubs at the kitchen table. He was 12 years old when it happened. The moment that changed everything. They were driving home from the grocery store. His mother had just gotten paid. The back seat was full of bags. Real food, not just the cheap stuff. His little sister Maya was 7, excited about the cookies they'd bought. His brother Devin was 9, already asleep with his head against the window. Then the lights appeared. Red and blue. Officer Patterson. Badge number 2847. Jordan still remembered it 34 years later. He'd never forget it. Patterson made his mother get out of the car. It was January. Freezing cold. She stood there in her thin hospital scrubs while he searched the vehicle. Threw their groceries on the ground. The eggs cracked. The milk carton split open. Maya started crying. Devin woke up terrified, so scared he wet himself right there in the back seat. Jordan sat there, 12 years old, watching a police officer treat his mother like a criminal for no reason at all. Patterson never found anything. Of course he didn't. There was nothing to find. But he took his time anyway. 43 minutes they waited in that cold. His mother never said a word. Never argued. Never demanded to know why she'd been stopped. When Jordan asked her later why she didn't fight back, she looked at him with eyes that had seen too much. "Baby," she said, "you fight back and you might not come home." She never filed a complaint. She was too afraid. Afraid of retaliation. Afraid they'd target her at work. Afraid they'd pull her over again and again until they found an excuse to make something stick. But Jordan wasn't afraid. He was angry. He joined the police force at 24. Not because he loved cops. Because his mother needed protection. Because his brother and sister needed someone who understood how the system worked from the inside. Someone who could fight back with a badge. He worked every rank. Beat cop in the roughest neighborhoods. Detective solving cases everyone else had given up on. Sergeant training rookies. Captain running entire districts. He earned his criminology PhD at night while raising 2 kids of his own. Published research on racial bias in policing. Testified before Congress twice. 8 months ago, the mayor appointed him police commissioner after a national search. Dozens of candidates from across the country. But they chose him. A South Side kid who joined the force to protect his mother. The Tesla Model S was 6 months old. He'd saved for 15 years to afford it. Custom dashboard camera system installed per department protocol. Every interaction recorded. Every stop documented. The license plate frame read, "Protect and Serve." His wife Angela had texted him 40 minutes ago. "Leftovers in the fridge. Don't work too late." He'd planned to be home by now. But Officer Kendrick had other plans. The neighborhood was peaceful. Tree-lined streets. Victorian homes with lights dimming for the night. Families settling in. Kids already asleep. Jordan had chosen this area specifically when he and Angela went house hunting. Safe, quiet, integrated. The kind of place where a black family could exist without suspicion. Or so he'd thought. Officer Kendrick's cruiser sat 20 feet back, high beams flooding Jordan's mirrors with white light. Inside the police vehicle, the computer terminal glowed blue. Kendrick was running the plates. Standard procedure. But Jordan could read body language the way other people read books. He'd been doing this for 28 years. Hand on weapon. Aggressive stance. Backup already requested on the radio. Something was very, very wrong. Kendrick approached the driver's side window, flashlight in hand, beam pointed directly at Jordan's face. Blinding. Intentional. License, registration, proof of insurance. Jordan kept his hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. Visible. Non-threatening. The way he trained his own son to do during traffic stops. "Officer Kendrick, can you tell me the reason for this stop?" "You were driving erratically." Jordan's internal lie detector went off immediately. He'd been driving the speed limit. Hadn't changed lanes in 6 blocks. Hadn't touched his phone. Hadn't done anything that could remotely qualify as erratic. "I haven't changed lanes in 6 blocks. I'm doing exactly the speed limit." "You failed to signal at the intersection back there." "There was no turn. I drove straight through." Kendrick's jaw tightened. The flashlight beam didn't waver. "Are you calling me a liar?" And there it was. The shift. The moment when a routine traffic stop became something else entirely. "I'm asking for clarification on why I was stopped. This vehicle was reported suspicious in this area." "Reported by whom?" "That's not your concern. Step out of the vehicle." Jordan's mind was already cataloging everything. Time stamp. Location. Kendrick's badge number visible on his chest. 4782. The lack of probable cause. The escalating aggression. The lies stacking on top of lies. He reached slowly for his wallet, telegraphing every movement. And Kendrick's hand moved to his holster. "What are you reaching for?" Jordan's blood went cold. This was the moment. The moment where everything could go sideways. Where a traffic stop became a shooting. Where a man reaching for his license became a threat requiring deadly force. "My license. You asked for my license. I didn't tell you to move yet." Hands on the wheel. Jordan's hands returned to 10 and 2. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. His voice stayed level. Calm. Non-threatening. Because he knew what happened when black men showed fear. When they showed anger. When they showed anything except perfect compliance. People died. "Officer, I'm going to reach for my wallet in my jacket pocket. I'm telling you before I move. Is that acceptable?" Kendrick's hand stayed on his weapon. 5 long seconds passed. Slowly, Jordan retrieved his wallet with 2 fingers. Slow motion. Deliberate. Like defusing a bomb. He handed over his driver's license, registration, and insurance card. The address on the license matched the neighborhood. The photo was clearly him. The registration showed the Tesla was titled in his name. Everything was in perfect order. Kendrick barely glanced at it. "This your car?" "Yes, sir." "How do you afford a car like this?" And there it was. The real question. Not is this your car? But how does someone like you afford something like this? "I bought it." "Aha." Kendrick's tone dripped with disbelief. "What do you do for work?" "I work for the city." "Doing what?" Jordan paused. He could end this right now. 3 words. "I'm the commissioner." But something stopped him. Because if he used his title to get out of this stop, it would prove exactly what he'd been fighting against his entire career. That rights were conditional. That respect was earned through position, not granted through humanity. "I'd rather not say without understanding why I'm being detained." "You're not being detained. This is a consensual encounter." Jordan almost laughed. Consensual. As if he had any choice. As if he could simply drive away without consequences. "Then I'm free to go?" "After I finish my investigation." "Investigation into what crime?" Suspicious activity. Possible stolen vehicle. The registration is right there. It's in my name. Kendrick held up the documents like they were written in a foreign language. Registrations can be faked. IDs can be stolen. Where are you coming from at this hour? A community meeting. Right. What community? The 4th Ward Town Hall on Police Community Relations. The smirk that crossed Kendrick's face made Jordan's stomach turn. You're one of those. Anti-police activist. I'm a concerned citizen. Step out of the car. We're going to search for narcotics. And just like that, a traffic stop for nothing became a drug investigation with zero probable cause. The second police cruiser pulled up fast, lights cutting through the quiet neighborhood. Officer Davis stepped out, young, maybe late 20s, hand already resting on his weapon before he even knew what was happening. What we got, Kendrick? Suspicious vehicle. Drivers being evasive. Matches description of drug activity in the area. Jordan felt the lie hit him like a physical blow. That's not true. I answered every question. Kendrick turned to Davis, voice loud enough for neighbors to hear. He's getting hostile now. Davis positioned himself on the passenger side, flanking Jordan's vehicle. 2 officers. 2 weapons. 1 black man sitting in his own car 4 blocks from his own house. Sir, we need you to step out and place your hands on the hood. Jordan's lawyer brain kicked in. Constitutional law. 4th Amendment. Terry versus Ohio. Pennsylvania versus Mims. He knew every case. Every precedent. Every protection that was supposed to prevent exactly this. I'm not hostile. I'm complying with lawful orders. But I need to know, am I under arrest? Not yet. But if you don't cooperate, I am cooperating. I've provided identification. I've explained where I'm coming from. What probable cause do you have to search my vehicle? Kendrick stepped closer to the window. Close enough that Jordan could smell the coffee on his breath. Probable cause is my professional judgment. And right now, my judgment says you're hiding something. Davis chimed in, playing good cop to Kendrick's bad cop. A routine Jordan had seen 1,000 times in interrogation rooms. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Jordan knew the script. He'd reviewed the cases. Read the depositions. Watched the body camera footage of stops that ended in broken bones, shattered lives, and closed caskets. He'd fired officers for using this exact language. Testified against them in federal court. Stood beside grieving families and promised reform. But right now he wasn't the commissioner. He was a black man with 2 cops demanding he exit his vehicle with no legal justification. And his camera was recording every second. His hand moved slowly toward his phone on the passenger seat. Don't reach for that. Kendrick's voice went up an octave. His hand was on his weapon now. Actually on it. Ready to draw. I'm calling my attorney. Put the phone down. I have the right to contact. I said put it down. If this is making you angry, wait until you see what happens next. Make sure you're subscribed because this story is about to explode in ways you won't believe. Hit that subscribe button right now. Kendrick's hand was on the driver's door handle now. Jordan could hear him trying the lock from outside. Do not open my door without a warrant. I don't need a warrant for a Terry stop. Jordan's voice stayed calm, but steel ran through every word. A Terry stop requires reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. Driving while black isn't a crime. The silence that followed was deafening. Kendrick's hand froze on the door handle. Davis shifted uncomfortably. Somewhere down the street, a porch light turned on. A curtain moved. Neighbors were watching now. What did you just say? I said you have no reasonable suspicion. Kendrick's face flushed red. The flashlight beam shook slightly in his hand. You think this is about race? You people always play that card. Davis took a small step back like he could sense what was coming. Like he knew this had gone too far but didn't have the courage to stop it. Kendrick, maybe we should. No. Kendrick's voice was loud now. Performance anger. The kind meant for the neighbors watching. For the cameras he didn't know were recording. I'm sick of this. Every time we do our jobs it's racism. Every time we stop someone it's profiling. Jordan let him talk. Let him dig the hole deeper. Because every word was being recorded. Every threat. Every lie. Every violation of constitutional rights that Kendrick thought would disappear into the night like they always did. You stopped me for no reason. You've admitted you have no evidence of a crime. You've threatened to search my vehicle without probable cause. And now you're angry that I know my rights. Your rights don't mean. Jordan cut him off, voice still calm, still controlled, but with an edge that made both officers pause. Officer Kendrick. Badge number 4782. Officer Davis. Badge number 5193. This entire interaction is being recorded on my dashboard camera, which is currently uploading to a secure cloud server. Every word you've said. Every threat you've made. Every violation of my Fourth Amendment rights. It's documented. Time-stamped. Location tagged. And it's already been uploaded to a server you can't access. Kendrick's face went white. Then red. Then white again. Are you threatening me? I'm informing you of the facts. For the first time since the stop began, Kendrick looked uncertain. His hand left his weapon. His eyes darted to the dashboard camera he'd dismissed earlier. The small lens staring back at him like a judge. Davis whispered something Jordan couldn't hear. Kendrick shook his head. Pulled out his radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. Requesting a supervisor at my location. And Jordan knew. Kendrick had just made the biggest mistake of his career. The third police cruiser took 6 minutes to arrive. 6 minutes of silence. 6 minutes of Kendrick and Davis standing 20 feet away, whispering to each other, glancing back at Jordan like he was a bomb that might explode. 6 minutes of Jordan sitting in his car, hands still on the steering wheel, heart still pounding, thinking about his mother standing in the cold while Officer Patterson threw groceries on the ground. Thinking about his daughter's voice. Drive safe, Dad. Thinking about all the times he'd sat across from families who'd lost someone to a traffic stop. Who'd buried their sons, their daughters, their fathers, their brothers, because an officer saw a threat that didn't exist. Sergeant Morrison stepped out of his cruiser. Late 50s. Gray hair. 26 years on the force. Jordan had reviewed his file during his first month as commissioner. Good cop. Fair. By the book. No excessive force complaints. No racial bias indicators. The kind of officer the department needed more of. What's going on here, Kendrick? Suspicious vehicle stop, Sarge. Driver's been uncooperative and making accusations about. Morrison held up his hand. Stopped Kendrick mid-sentence. I'm asking the driver. Sir, can you tell me what happened? Jordan turned his head slowly. Made eye contact. Let Morrison see his face in the beam of the flashlight. Sergeant Morrison. Good to see you. The recognition hit Morrison like a train. His eyes went wide. His flashlight dropped 6 inches. His mouth opened but no words came out for 3 full seconds. Commissioner Hayes? The air changed. Everything changed. Kendrick's face drained of all color. Davis actually took a step backward. The quiet suburban street suddenly felt like the loudest place in the world. Wait, what? Morrison's voice was barely above a whisper now, like he was afraid to say the words out loud. This is Commissioner Jordan Hayes. He's your boss. He's my boss. He runs the entire police department. Silence. The kind that feels like the world has stopped spinning. The kind that comes right before everything falls apart. Kendrick's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. That's not possible. He didn't identify himself as. Jordan's voice cut through the darkness. Come. Precise. Devastating. I don't have to identify myself as anything, Officer Kendrick. I'm a citizen. And citizens have rights. Even when you don't recognize them. Morrison looked like he wanted to sink into the pavement and disappear. His hand rubbed his face. His eyes closed for a long moment. When he opened them again, he looked at Jordan with something that might have been respect. Or fear. Or both. Commissioner, I apologize. If I had known. If you had known I was the commissioner, you would have treated me differently. That's exactly the problem, Sergeant. Morrison's face flushed. He knew he'd stepped in it. He knew there was no good answer to what Jordan had just said. Sir, that's not what I meant. What was the initial reason for this stop? Jordan wasn't looking at Morrison. He was looking at Kendrick. Watching the man who'd been so confident 15 minutes ago now looking like he wanted to run. The vehicle matched a description. What description? From what call? What's the incident number? Silence. Kendrick looked at Davis. Davis looked at the ground. Morrison looked at both of them with growing horror. There is no call, is there, Officer Kendrick? I observed suspicious behavior. Define suspicious. Kendrick's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Words came out, but they sounded hollow even to him. A high-end vehicle in this neighborhood late at night. I live in this neighborhood. This is my home. 4 blocks that way. Jordan pointed down the street. And a Tesla isn't suspicious, it's just expensive. What you mean is, a black man in an expensive car seems suspicious to you. Davis finally spoke up, voice weak, desperate to distance himself from what was happening. Commissioner, I don't think he meant. Jordan turned his gaze to Davis. The young officer actually flinched. Officer Davis, how many white drivers in Tesla vehicles have you stopped in this precinct this year? Davis said nothing. Because they all knew the answer. The answer is in the data. I've seen it. I review every stop. Every search. Every use of force report that crosses my desk. 0. You've stopped 0 white drivers in luxury vehicles in this precinct this year. But in the past 6 months, this precinct has stopped 14 black drivers in luxury vehicles. 13 of those stops resulted in no arrests, no citations, no evidence of criminal activity whatsoever. Do you know what we call that? Nobody answered. Nobody wanted to say the word. We call it racial profiling. We call it unconstitutional policing. We call it the exact reason communities don't trust us. Kendrick's voice cracked. Desperation bleeding through. Sir, I was just doing my job. You were profiling. And then you lied about probable cause. You claimed I was driving erratically when I wasn't. You claimed my vehicle matched a suspicious description when there was no call. You threatened an illegal search when I provided valid documentation. And then, when I asserted my constitutional rights, rights that you swore an oath to protect, you became aggressive. You raised your voice. You put your hand on your weapon. You tried to open my door without consent. All of this is on camera. Jordan pulled out his phone. Opened an app. The dashboard footage was there. Time stamped. Location tagged. Every word. Every threat. Every lie. Already uploaded to the cloud. Already backed up to 3 separate servers. Already flagged for internal affairs review. This footage is already uploaded to the internal affairs server. Automatically. Every interaction I have is documented and flagged for review. Do you know why I do that, Officer Kendrick? Kendrick's voice was small now. Barely audible. Sir, please? Because when I was 12 years old, I watched a cop pull my mother over for no reason. Officer Patterson. Badge number 2847. I still remember it. I'll never forget it. He made her get out of the car in the freezing cold. It was January. She was wearing thin hospital scrubs because she'd just finished a 16-hour shift saving lives. And this cop, this officer who was supposed to protect and serve, threw our groceries on the ground. Eggs cracked. Milk spilled everywhere. My little sister Maya was 7 years old. She started crying. My brother Devin was 9. He was so terrified he wet himself in the back seat. Morrison's eyes were closed now. Davis was staring at his feet. Kendrick looked like he might be sick. Officer Patterson searched that car for 43 minutes. You know what he found? Nothing. Because there was nothing to find. My mother was a nurse. A single mother working herself to death to feed her kids. And he treated her like a criminal because she was black and driving through a neighborhood where someone decided she didn't belong. Jordan's voice stayed calm. Level. But there was a weight to it now. The weight of 34 years of carrying that memory. Of watching his mother stand in the cold and take it because fighting back could mean never coming home. She never filed a complaint. She was too scared. Scared of retaliation. Scared they'd target her at work. Scared they'd pull her over again and again until they found an excuse, any excuse to make something stick. But I'm not my mother. I became a cop so no one would ever do that to her again. I became commissioner to make sure it never happens to anyone again. And tonight, you've shown me exactly why my work isn't done. Morrison tried to salvage something from the wreckage. Commissioner, I'll handle this personally. Kendrick will be reprimanded. Reprimanded? Jordan's voice went quiet. The kind of quiet that's more dangerous than shouting. Sergeant, let me be clear about what happened here. Officer Kendrick conducted an unlawful stop with no probable cause. He lied about the reason for the stop multiple times. He threatened an illegal search without constitutional justification. He made racially charged statements. He became aggressive when I asserted my rights. He put his hand on his weapon when I reached for my phone. And he did all of this while I was fully complying with every lawful order he gave me. Morrison said nothing. What could he say? If I were anyone else, if I were a kid from the South Side, if I were someone without resources, without a law degree, without a lawyer on speed dial, without a camera, what do you think would have happened to me tonight? The question hung in the air. Nobody wanted to answer it. Because they all knew. I'll tell you exactly what would have happened. I'd be face down on this pavement right now. Hands cuffed behind my back. Maybe with a knee on my neck because I resisted. Maybe with bruises I'd have to explain to my wife. Maybe worse. And Officer Kendrick's report would say I was aggressive. It would say I was uncooperative. It would say I reached for something and he feared for his safety. And it would be my word against his. Except I'm not just anyone. I'm the commissioner. And I have the power to make sure this stops. Right now. Tonight. Kendrick's voice broke completely. Sir, please, I have a family. I've been on the force for 7 years. This was a mistake. I made a mistake. Jordan turned to look at him fully for the first time. Really look at him. You didn't make a mistake, Officer Kendrick. You made a choice. You chose to pull me over because you saw a black man in an expensive car and decided that was suspicious. You chose to lie about probable cause. You chose to escalate when I asked questions. You chose to ignore my rights. Those were all choices. And choices have consequences. This is where everything changes. Stay with me because the fallout from this is massive. If you're not subscribed yet, do it now. This channel brings you real stories about justice and accountability. Don't miss what happens next. Jordan turned to Morrison. His voice shifted. No longer the victim of a traffic stop. Now the police commissioner of Chicago. The man in charge of 12,000 officers. He man who signed termination papers and approved disciplinary hearings. Sergeant Morrison, as of this moment, Officer Kendrick is on administrative leave pending a full internal affairs investigation. His badge and weapon will be surrendered immediately. A formal complaint will be filed with the Civilian Oversight Board by tomorrow morning. This footage will be presented as evidence in a disciplinary hearing within 30 days. Is that understood? Morrison's voice was tight. Professional. He knew there was no other option. Yes, sir. Jordan turned to Davis. The young officer who'd stood by and watched it all happen. Who'd said nothing when Kendrick lied. Who'd positioned himself as backup for an unconstitutional stop. Officer Davis, you arrived as backup to this stop. You witnessed constitutional violations and said nothing. You heard Officer Kendrick lie about probable cause and you supported those lies. You enabled this stop to continue when you should have questioned it. You are also on administrative leave effective immediately. Davis's eyes went wide. But I didn't, I wasn't the one who. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity, Officer Davis. You wore that badge. You took that oath. And when you saw a fellow officer violating someone's rights, you did nothing. That makes you just as responsible. Badge and weapon. Now. Both officers, hands shaking, removed their badges. Placed them in Morrison's outstretched hand. Their weapons followed. The clicks of the holsters opening sounded like nails in a coffin. Jordan wasn't done. This footage will be released to the public tomorrow morning. Not as revenge. Not as punishment. But because the community we serve deserves to know what happens when no one is watching. And more importantly, what happens when someone finally is. They deserve to see that the system can work. That officers who violate their oath face consequences. That badges don't protect bad cops anymore. Kendrick's voice cracked completely. All the confidence. All the aggression. All the authority he'd wielded 15 minutes ago was gone. Replaced by desperation. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Jordan looked at him. Really looked at him. Saw a man who'd probably been doing this for years. Pulling over black drivers. Hispanic drivers. Any driver who didn't look like they belonged in nice neighborhoods with expensive cars. A man who'd gotten away with it because there were no cameras. No commissioners. No consequences. That's the problem, Officer Kendrick. You didn't know who I was, so you treated me like a criminal. You saw my skin color and made assumptions. You saw my expensive car and decided I must have stolen it. You saw me assert my rights. Rights that you swore an oath to protect. And you got angry. You felt threatened. Not by a weapon. Not by violence. But by a black man who knew the law better than you did. Jordan paused. Let that sink in. If you had treated me with the respect you would give to any citizen, regardless of their race or the car they drive or the neighborhood they live in, we wouldn't be standing here right now. But you didn't. You saw black skin and you saw a criminal. And now we're here. And tomorrow the world will know exactly what kind of officer you are. Exactly what kind of man wears that badge and uses it to harass innocent people. Kendrick opened his mouth, closed it. No words came. What could he say? Every word out of Jordan's mouth was true. Every word was documented on camera. Every word would be played in the hearing room, analyzed by lawyers, shared on social media, discussed on news programs. His career was over. And he knew it. The next morning, Jordan sat in his office on the 5th floor of police headquarters. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city he'd sworn to protect. His communications director, Tasha Williams, sat across from him. Her laptop was open. The footage was queued up. Ready to upload. Sir, the footage is ready. Once we release it, there's no taking it back. Jordan stared at the frozen image on her screen. His own face. Hands on the steering wheel. Kendrick's silhouette in the background, hand on his weapon. I know. The media will run with it. It'll be national news within an hour. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Every outlet in the country will have your face on their screens. Good. Tasha leaned forward. The police union is going to fight this. Art. They're already preparing statements. Kendrick's lawyer has called 3 times this morning. He wants to negotiate. Jordan's jaw tightened. There's nothing to negotiate. He broke the law. He violated his oath. He violated my constitutional rights. And he did it with confidence because he thought there would be no consequences. Because there never have been consequences. Not for cops like him. His lawyer is claiming it was a misunderstanding. That Kendrick didn't know you were. That's exactly the point. Jordan's voice cut through. He didn't know I was the commissioner, so he treated me like every other black man he's ever pulled over. Like a suspect. Like a criminal. Like someone whose rights don't matter. Tasha nodded slowly. She'd worked in the department for 8 years. She'd seen the data. She knew what Jordan was talking about wasn't theoretical. It was statistical reality. Jordan reached across the desk. Clicked publish on the department's official social media accounts. The caption was simple. Last night I was racially profiled by one of my own officers. This is what systemic racism looks like even when you're the one in charge. We can do better. We must do better. Full statement and body camera footage below. The view counter started at 0. Within 60 seconds, it hit 100. Within 5 minutes, 5,000. Within 30 minutes, it had been shared on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. News outlets were calling. The mayor's office was calling. Civil rights organizations were calling. By noon it had 8 million views. And the world was watching. Within 24 hours, Officer Kendrick's entire life was under a microscope. Internet sleuths identified him within 2 hours of the video going live. His full name. His precinct. His badge number. His social media accounts that he'd forgotten to make private. The screenshots started immediately. Blue Lives Matter memes. Anti-BLM posts. Comments on news articles about police shootings defending officers every single time, no matter the circumstances. Coded racist language about thugs and criminals, and those people, that everyone knew exactly what he meant. And then the complaints surfaced. 7 previous accusations of racial profiling over his 7-year career. All of them dismissed. All of them filed away with notes like unfounded, and no evidence, and officer's judgment supported. A black woman in her 60s who'd been pulled over for matching a description, while driving to church. The description was for a male suspect 30 years younger. A Hispanic teenager stopped for suspicious loitering, while waiting for his mother outside a grocery store in broad daylight. An Asian American businessman pulled over 3 times in 6 months in the same neighborhood where he'd lived for 8 years. All dismissed. All buried. All forgotten. Until now. The police union released a statement at 3 p.m. Weak. Defensive. Talking about due process and rushing to judgment and how Officer Kendrick had served honorably for 7 years. The public backlash was immediate and brutal. Comment sections flooded. Phone lines jammed. By 6 p.m., the union president was giving a second statement. This one notably lacking any defense of Kendrick's actions. By 9 p.m., Kendrick's lawyer announced he was resigning from the force effective immediately. But the story didn't end there. Because Jordan Hayes wasn't just interested in one officer. He was interested in the system that created him. The city council announced an emergency session. An independent review of all traffic stop data from the past 5 years. Every stop. Every search. Every use of force. All of it analyzed by race, neighborhood, time of day, outcome. The patterns that emerged were damning. Black drivers were 4.7 times more likely to be stopped in wealthy neighborhoods than white drivers. Hispanic drivers were 3.2 times more likely to be searched during routine traffic stops, even though contraband was found at the same rate as white drivers. Asian drivers reported being asked, "Where are you really from?" and "Do you speak English?" during stops for minor violations. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed. To control. To intimidate. To remind certain people that they didn't belong. And now everyone could see it. 3 days after the video went viral, Commissioner Jordan Hayes held a press conference. Every major news outlet in the country sent cameras. The room was packed. Standing room only. Reporters jammed shoulder to shoulder. Jordan stood at the podium. His badge gleamed under the lights. His uniform was crisp. Perfect. Behind him stood the mayor. The city council president. Community leaders. Civil rights attorneys. People who'd been fighting this fight for decades. "I'm not special because I'm the commissioner." His voice was calm. Steady. But it carried to every corner of that room. "I'm just the one who had the power to make this visible." Across the city, across this country, black and brown people are stopped, questioned, and harassed for the crime of existing in spaces where others don't think we belong. We're told we don't look like we own our cars. We don't look like we live in our neighborhoods. We don't look like we belong in nice restaurants, expensive stores, peaceful parks. We don't look like we deserve respect. He paused. Looked directly into the camera. Into the lens. Into the homes of millions of people watching live. Officer Kendrick saw my skin color and decided I was a criminal. He saw my expensive car and assumed I'd stolen it. He saw me assert my rights, my constitutional rights, and he felt threatened. Not by a weapon. Not by violence. But by a black man who knew the law better than he did. And when he realized who I was, he didn't apologize for violating my rights. He apologized for not recognizing me. As if my rights only matter when I have a title. As if I only deserve dignity when I'm wearing this badge. The room was silent. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled notes. But here's the truth, I shouldn't have needed to be the commissioner to be treated with dignity. I shouldn't have needed a law degree to assert my rights. I shouldn't have needed a camera to protect myself from the people who are supposed to protect me. And the next black driver Officer Kendrick would have pulled over, because we all know there would have been a next one. That person shouldn't need any of those things to survive a traffic stop. Jordan leaned forward. Hands gripping the podium. This ends now. Not just with one officer. Not just with one traffic stop. But with the culture that created Officer Kendrick. The culture that taught him to see black skin and think criminal. The culture that protected him through 7 complaints. The culture that promotes officers who violate rights and punishes officers who speak up. He straightened. Shoulders back. Effective immediately, every officer in this department will undergo mandatory bias training. Not the 2-hour PowerPoint presentation kind. Real training. Intensive. Ongoing. With consequences for those who refuse to change. We're installing cameras in every single patrol vehicle. Footage will be automatically uploaded to secure servers that can't be tampered with. We're creating a civilian review board with real power. Not advisory power. Not recommendation power. Real power to investigate, to subpoena, to discipline, and to fire. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The police union president in the back shifted uncomfortably. And we're releasing all traffic stop data to the public. Every stop. Every search. Every outcome. Analyzed by race, by neighborhood, by officer, by precinct. Full transparency. Because sunshine is the best disinfectant. And this department has been operating in the dark for too long. Jordan's voice softened slightly. But the steel underneath remained. To every person of color who has been stopped for no reason. To everyone who's been questioned for existing. To everyone who's been made to feel like a suspect in your own neighborhood, in your own car, in your own skin. I see you. I believe you. Your experiences are valid. Your fear is justified. Your anger is righteous. And I'm using every ounce of power I have to make sure this never happens again." He paused. "Let that land. People have asked me if I'm angry, if I'm hurt, if I'm traumatized by what Officer Kendrick did to me. And the truth is yes, I'm all of those things. But I'm also tired. Tired of having the same conversation. Tired of watching the same patterns repeat. Tired of standing beside grieving families and promising reform that never comes. Tired of being pulled over in my own neighborhood and having to calculate whether asserting my rights will get me killed." His voice grew stronger. "But I'm not so tired that I'm giving up. I'm not so tired that I'm walking away. I'm not so tired that I'm accepting this as normal. Because it's not normal. It's not acceptable. And it's not inevitable." Jordan reached down, picked up his commissioner's badge from the podium, held it up for the cameras. Officer Kendrick thought he was pulling over a criminal. He was wrong. And that mistake didn't just cost him his career. It exposed a truth this department can no longer ignore. We don't get to choose who deserves rights. Everyone does. The Constitution doesn't have an asterisk. It doesn't say, "These rights apply to everyone except." It says everyone. Period. He placed the badge back on the podium, then picked it back up, pinned it to his chest. "I'm not walking away from this badge. I'm not letting bad cops define what it means to serve and protect. I'm fixing this. We're fixing this. And we're just getting started." The room erupted. Questions shouted from every direction. Camera flashes like lightning. But Jordan didn't take questions. He'd said what he needed to say. He walked off the stage. The mayor followed. The community leaders followed. And for the first time in the history of the Chicago Police Department, change felt possible. Not easy. Not quick. But possible. 6 months later, the data told the story. Traffic stops in wealthy neighborhoods decreased by 32% overall. But traffic stops of black drivers in those neighborhoods decreased by 64%. Not because fewer crimes were being committed, but because officers knew they were being watched. Knew the cameras were recording. Knew that racial profiling would cost them their jobs, not just a slap on the wrist. Complaints to the Civilian Review Board increased by 200%. Not because police behavior got worse, but because people finally believed their complaints would be taken seriously. And they were. 14 officers were fired in the first 6 months. 23 more were suspended. Dozens were retrained. The police union fought every single disciplinary action. Filed grievances. Threatened lawsuits. Held press conferences claiming witch hunts and political persecution. But the data didn't lie. And the cameras didn't lie. And slowly, painfully, the culture began to shift. Officer Kendrick was never hired by another police department. His law enforcement certification was revoked by the state. Last anyone heard, he was working security at a shopping mall 3 states away. Officer Davis completed additional training and returned to duty after 6 months. He requested assignment to community policing. By all accounts, he became the kind of officer the department needed. The kind who learned from his mistakes instead of defending them. Sergeant Morrison retired early. No scandal. No investigation. He just couldn't stomach being part of a department that had let things get so bad for so long. And Commissioner Jordan Hayes? He kept showing up. Kept fighting. Kept pushing for change even when it felt impossible. The camera on his dashboard kept recording. Every interaction. Every stop. Every moment. Because the work wasn't done. It's never done. But at least now people were watching. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it made you angry or hopeful or determined to see change, subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. Share this video. Because stories like this need to be told.